A coalition of Gulf nations led by Saudi Arabia has launched a military operation in Yemen. They're aiming to stop the advance of Shia Houthi militants who control the capital and the coastal city of Aden. The Saudi ambassador in the U.S. gave his statement.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia launched military operations in Yemen. The objective is to defend the legitimate government of President Hadi from the takeover attempts by the Houthi militias in Yemen.
Saudi Arabia says its air force has taken control over Yemeni airspace. The Houthi leader has called the operation as an act of aggression and has promised to retaliate. On Wednesday, rebel forces seized the airport and seaport in Aden. President Abid Mansour Hadi is believed to have fled the city, and his whereabouts are currently unknown. The rebels have offered a reward of $100,000 for his capture. The foreign minister has warned the country is on the brink of a full-scale civil war. For some perspective on this, I'm joined by Abayomi Azikiwe, editor of the Pan-African Newswire. Sir, welcome. Saudi Arabia and several other Gulf countries are now getting involved. Where do you see this situation heading?
It's a very dangerous situation. What this represents is the total collapse of U.S. foreign policy in Yemen. They have evacuated their special forces. Approximately 100 of them were stationed in Yemen. At the same time, U.S. diplomatic personnel have also been evacuated. The U.S.-backed President Hadi had called for such an intervention.
What reaction do you expect from Iran now?
Well, the Iranians, of course, are backing the Houthi militia groups because they are part of the Shia alliance that exists throughout the region. So therefore, they will have some political support, but I don't see them directly intervening militarily in Yemen in response to this escalation by Saudi Arabia. But it's clearly something that has the endorsement of the Obama administration. They have lost their capacity, in a sense, to intervene directly, and they're utilizing Saudi Arabia and the Gulf Cooperation Council as a proxy force to try to bolster Hadi in Yemen.
Sir, you were just talking about the U.S. Just 6 months ago, President Obama was calling Yemen a success story. Let's take a listen to what he said.
This strategy of taking out terrorists who threaten us while supporting partners on the front lines is one that we have successfully pursued in Yemen and Somalia for years.
Do you think Washington has now been taken by surprise by the latest developments?
Well, Washington has his hands full in Syria, in Iraq, and in other geopolitical regions. This is why they want to rely on the Gulf Cooperation Council. But it was clearly a miscalculation on the part of the Obama administration that they underestimated the power of the Houthi groups inside the country, which took control in September of the capital of Sana'a. Just recently, they took control of the city of Taiz. They've been moving southward over the last several days towards Aden. So it's clearly a failure of U.S. foreign policy in Yemen.
And Aden is home to a major oil refinery and is a major shipping hub. Could we see the Houthi rebels taking control over these supplies as well?
Well, it will be very interesting to see what happens if the Saudis and the GCC utilizes air power. It could perhaps halt their advances, but in the long term, if the Saudis are not willing to put in massive ground forces, then there could be a whole struggle developing around the control of Aden. Also, we have to keep in mind that in the south, there's a huge separatist movement that is resurfacing. Yemen was divided between the north and the south up until about 25 years ago. The south was a socialist-oriented republic, and the north, of course, was more allied with the United States and the West. So this is another factor that has to be taken into consideration. And this separatist movement has been growing over the last several months.
Frankly, it looks like a total security collapse now in Yemen. Could it be the next front, perhaps, in the expansion of Islamic State?
Well, we'll have to see if there's any significant Islamic State intervention. Al-Qaeda has been operating there for a while. This is the raison d'etre that the United States had utilized for carrying out these drone attacks against the people in Yemen, particularly the so-called al-Qaeda bases there. But it remains to be seen what role the Islamic State may have if they decide to enter in greater numbers in Yemen.
Sir, thank you very much for your time. This was Abayomi Azikiwe, editor of the Pan-African Newswire. Yemen's territory is becoming increasingly fragmented, with the government losing control over large areas. Major cities, including the capital Sana'a and the port of Aden, are held by the Houthis. And Sunni militant groups are also active in the south of the country, including al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula.